Hi, I'm Caitlin. I play softball for Triton.
Hello everyone, I'm Manny Uribe. I'm one of the faculty members here at HIA. And today we're going to be making soup. All right, we're getting into cold weather season. And I love it because we get to make one of my favorite things, which is soup, and it's one of the easiest things to do as long as you know what to do every single step of the way. We're gonna do a butternut squash soup that we walked across the street. We got this from our own garden, and we're going to roast it. Sure that you're gonna take the top and the bottom off, and you have to be careful. Butternut squash is very firm. You wanna make sure you have a sharp knife. Right? You don't want to apply a lot of pressure, and then what happens if your fingers are underneath? You got to be really careful. So the thing with this one, depending on the size too, you want to make sure you have, we're going to, with the tip of the knife, cut halfway. See how it's a little firm?
Yeah.
All right? You want to make sure you apply, cut all the way straight down, and then we pull out the knife and do the same thing on this end. Okay? So then this is going to allow us to cut it in half. All right.
It's pretty.
Okay, so we're gonna remove the seeds. All right, so here we go. We're gonna put this into a separate container. All right, so you're gonna just scoop the seeds out. Okay. Now, you think the seeds actually can provide a purpose?
Regrow?
Yeah, we can actually use it to regrow more stuff, but we can actually use it in cooking. So depending on what you're making, you can toast your seeds and use it as a garnish at the end. You can actually incorporate it into your soup, and it's going to act as a thickener. We're going to pop it in the oven. All right. So when you pop anything in the oven, you want it to roast. It's going to go for about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the size of this, and it's going to go at a higher temperature, so that way it can really bring out the sugars. But you need some fat. If it doesn't have any fat, it's going to just dry out and wrinkle out, and it's going to be gross. So since we're doing this as a vegan option today, we're going to incorporate some coconut oil. So we have some extra virgin coconut oil. We're going to incorporate a little bit in the pan. This is going to melt.
Smells good.
Yeah, right? We love using herbs. It's going to enhance the flavor a lot more. So then these are aromatics that we're going to end up using. So you have rosemary. We're going to put the squash on top. Add a little bit of fat on top of that. And then we're going to season it a little bit. Okay, so I love seasoning, right? Especially we're getting into fall weather. Yeah. So we're going to incorporate some salt and pepper. All right, remember salt is going to enhance the flavor of the actual product, and pepper is going to add flavor, right? So that's the difference. So we have salt, pepper, we have your rosemary. Can you smell what this is?
Is that cinnamon?
Yeah, so we have some cinnamon. All right, so this is what's going to make it smell amazing. And then this is another, this is nutmeg. Okay, so we have nutmeg. Nutmeg is a seed. And then all we do is you get a microplane, right? Pro tip, always have a microplane. We can use this for everything. Okay. Right, especially if you're gonna use citrus. You want to make sure you utilize the outside of the lemon, orange. It has a lot more flavor, right? You get the aroma from the skin versus the juice. We're going to put a little nutmeg in here. It's going to start smelling delicious. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to flip it over. We're going to pop this in the oven. Go.
All right.
So anytime you make any soup, any stocks, all right, the base is always pretty much the same. It's mirepoix. Okay, so mirepoix is onion, carrots, and celery. We're gonna cut the root off, all right, because we're going to blend this at the end. I'm not looking for a precise cut. Okay, cutting the onion. So let's get about one of these spoonfuls. Let's turn it on. Okay, There we go. So we'll turn it on low. I'll continue peeling the onion.
Do you want more than one or just one?
Just one.
Okay.
All right, we can always add more.
It smells so good. I'm obsessed with it.
Cut these down.
I'm gonna start crying.
No. All right, so when you cut your onions, you want to make sure you kind of breathe through your mouth. It's less of a chance that you're going to cry. Okay, don't rush this step. All right, do you know what I mean by letting them sweat?
Let them sit there?
Yeah, just let them sit there, let them hang out with the fat. You don't want to have any color on them.
Okay.
Okay, I don't want any color yet. I want the sugars to come out of the onion. I want to make sure that the flavor is actually coming out. It's important to allow every layer to properly get built, so that way your soup is delicious. We're going to stir, so let's get the rubber spatula.
See?
Okay, so we're going to increase the temperature right now because it's still a little on the low side.
A lot of onions.
Yes, so lots of onions.
Do
All
you
right.
want me to leave that in there? Or
And then what else? No, yeah, we can leave it in here. We're gonna keep on stirring. All right. So at the same time, we're gonna incorporate another layer of flavor. We're gonna add a little bit of garlic. All right. And all we're gonna do for this one is just gonna open it up a little bit, smash it. We'll throw it in here.
That's easy.
Yes. So then with the rest of the mirepoix, we're going to get your carrots, right? So with mirepoix, it's 50% onion, 25% carrots, 25% celery. Okay, so now we're gonna start adding some more herbs, right? Have you ever worked with sage before?
No.
No? Sage, it's that time. This is the time you want to use sage, right? Sage is a wonderful thing. It definitely doesn't get utilized as much as it should. So we're going to add some sage. We're going to, right, if we were doing this as an act without considering it as a vegan soup, we would do butter and throw some sage in there, and it just makes it's a wonderful smell, right? So let's get that. So that's cooking. So you want to let this go for about 10-15 minutes. Don't rush it so much. We're going to take a look at our roasted squash, roasted butternut squash. We'll take it out, okay? It's going to look something like this. Okay, so roasted butternut squash, you can feel it. It's a little bit softer, right? So we kind of let it sit there. You have the rosemary. It smells wonderful.
That looks good.
Yeah. So you can just take a spoon and eat it like this, put a little bit of honey, put some candied pecans or candied walnuts, and it's a good snack, right? It's going to be naturally sweet. So you want to make sure we get this out, right? So we're going to take the spoon that we were using earlier.
The big one?
Yep. And then we're going to remove all the meat. So all you're going to do is just scrape this off. And it just comes right off, right? So then we're going to take this, and we're going to put it back into the soup. All right, so we have the onions, they're cooking. We have a veggie stock in here. We're going to incorporate, that's going to be our liquid. Okay, so it dropped the temperature down dramatically. We're going to wait a little bit. We're going to continue to simmer. All right, soup is one of the things that you don't want to rush. Right, the longer it sits, the longer it's going to marry with all the flavors, and it's really going to taste delicious. As you have this, you guys start thinking, how are you going to plate this? What do you want to add to your soup so it's not just a puree of baby food? What do you think will go well?
Breadsticks.
Bread, okay. Bread, toasted bread, grilled bread would add a whole nother component. That would be delicious, right? So I like to incorporate toasted pepitas. So those are the toasted pumpkin seeds, right? So I like to incorporate a little bit of oil, some seasoning, and it just adds a nice crunch without having all that bread on there, right? Because this is gluten-free as well.
I might destroying this. Is that okay?
That's okay.
Okay.
The soup. We're going to blend it all together. So then we have your onion, your celery, your carrots, right? We have your mirepoix. We have your butternut squash. We have your aromatics, which is going to be sage. We had some rosemary incorporated onto the meat itself, right? So then it's just going to be letting this simmer. We're going to incorporate the coconut milk in here now, right? You can always incorporate a little bit of heavy cream if you want to actually add more fat. Okay. And And then
That
once,
looks good.
yeah, it's gonna be delicious. As the liquid is simmering, you want to make sure that it doesn't go above simmering. Okay, you don't want it to boil because then you run the risk of actually burning. So then all this hard work that you just took,
Scooping?
yeah,
Better not be
scooping all
ruined.
everything, right? You want to make sure that it doesn't go to waste. You don't burn the bottom, so you want to make sure that you're stirring as you go, and you want to make sure that it doesn't really go above simmering. So the longer you can let this go, the better. As you blend everything, you want to make sure you're getting an even amount of liquid to actual veggies. So that way it's actually blending versus just the blade turning and it's going to burn. All right, so you don't want to incorporate more than this. All right, and then another thing too is you want to make sure you put this on, right? So make sure that the setting is always at the lowest setting. We're going to always use a towel. We're going to cover this because if for some reason I throw too much or if it was all the way on high speed, you turn this on, it's going to shoot up.
Okay.
Right? Seeing it too many times, it can hurt you. So we'll turn it on nice and slow. Right? We didn't see anything. We're increasing the speed. Okay, so depending on the thickness, if you're happy with it, you can just serve, keep it warm. If not, then you can reduce it down even more.
Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna take this. This is probably the most important part to any recipe, is tasting. You never want to
Nervous.
you never want to just make something and then assume, well, I followed the recipe, it has to be delicious.
Ooh, that's good.
We're gonna incorporate just a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. It has a natural sweetness. You get some of that, right? You taste the sage. All right, so then we're gonna take our soup. And do about 8 ounces. So I like incorporating crunch. So that's where the pepitas come in. Right, so it's just how you present everything too. Right, you want to make sure that yes, you want to have garnish, but is it a useful garnish? Is it going to actually add something to it, or is it just going to sit there? So we're going to showpiece the actual color as well. Right, so then we have our toasted pepitas, so it has a little bit of spice to it. And then we have cashews that we actually candied, so it has another cinnamon kind of fall, and it's going to add a lot of crunch to this. So we had a lot of egg whites left over, so we candied some cashews. So, and then microgreens. Have you ever had microgreens?
Nope.
Okay,
I've
so
seen 'em before,
microgreens
though.
are awesome because they have so much flavor in such a little bite, and they make everything look pretty. So, all right. So then something like this. Are you happy with it? Think we need anything else?
No, I think
No?
that looks
Okay,
good.
it's
I
pretty
would
good,
eat
right?
that.
Okay, I would eat it too. All right, so then this is our soup. Where do you want it? Okay. So then we have our butternut squash soup. And then what I forgot to do is actually reserve some actual butternut squash pieces and then incorporate the meat in there. So as you're eating it, you have some chunks of butternut squash, you have the soup, and then you have everything else. So
Looks fancy to me.
I hope you enjoyed your time
I
here
did. Thank you so much.
And I hope you learned, and I hope you continue to cook.
I'm going to try cooking that now.
Make it for your team.
Thank you.
All right.